I had some experience lately dealing with a single mom, which I've never had before. And I mean real recently. And I know when I'm at Target or out in public and I see children having a temper tantrum and I see single moms trying to reason with them, it is an instinctive reaction now, because this is not something that I rationalize. This is an emotion that wells up from deep place within me. My reaction is not to reason with a kid who's having a temper tantrum about not getting a toy. My reaction is to grab this kid by the scruff of the neck and remove them out of a public area without a further word of discussion. I throw $20 at the bill or at the checkout clerk or whatever, or just leave everything behind and take that child into a car, get that child home, make it crystal clear that this is not going to be continuing anymore. And the thing about spanking is it's very hard to come into a child who's already misbehaving and start spanking him, because you have to apply an awful lot of spanking. And it can actually, if you come to the situation too late, it's too late. But if you spank a child once or twice when they're very young, and you don't have to spank them very hard, this is my personal opinion, then you don't ever have to spank them again. I remember being spanked by my dad probably twice. And I remember prior to being spanked both times, my dad would count to 3. And on the 2 or 3 occasions where I let him get to 3, I was not happy with the consequences. So throughout my entire childhood, I could be restrained and my behavior modified by my dad by counting to 3. And most of you know this feeling. He'd say, don't make me count to 3, and I'm still misbehaving. 1, and there's the 1. And then he would do something to his voice. It was like the Jedi mind trick. 2. And the 2 was all you needed after that. Once you saw what happens at 3, 2 is enough. And so this idea that you're beating children to death for the rest of their lives in order to punish them is nonsense. What you're really doing is you're doing it once or twice so they know what it feels like, and then you don't have to do it after that. But it works. And when I see these children misbehaving, and what I see in these, I know this is kind of a little off topic, but I don't care. I'm going to wrap with this because I like this subject. I might even go another 15 minutes on this. What I see is I see adults trying to argue and reason with unreasonable children who have no capacity for reason. And what I've learned anecdotally and philosophically and everything else is what is happening when that child is acting up is that child is actually, if you really get down to it, that child is actually looking for the reassurance of a parent who says no. And the fact that they keep pushing the boundaries and they keep getting away with it terrifies them. So when you say to a kid, you cannot have that toy, and they say, I want the toy, I want the toy, and you say, okay, fine, you can have the toy if you're quiet, what you basically told this terrified little creature is that you are in fact running this world. And all of this scary stuff that a 9-year-old child sees, monsters under the bed, right, and shadows on the wall, you're telling a child that, okay, it's your responsibility. You're in boss. You're in charge. When you do something as simple as saying, you will not have this. Why? Because I said so. That's it, in the car, and you're not coming back for another 2 weeks, and you've just simply taken away some other privilege of them. What you're really telling that child is, you are not running this show. I'm running the show. I'm running the show, and what I say go, which means you're not going to get that toy, so you're not going to get the toy. You're not going to this party because I said so, so you're not going to this party. But you're really telling them what they don't understand consciously, but what you're really telling them is, and when I say there's no monsters under the bed, there's no monsters under the bed. And when I say everything's going to be okay, I mean everything's going to be okay, because I mean what I say. And I say what I mean. And when you don't give them that, they go nuts. And that's why they have these constant temper tantrums, because they're looking for structure. They're looking for order, and they're looking for somebody in command so it's not them. And by the way, I see comments in the comment section about maybe making this thing happen on Friday nights as a regular rule. That ain't going to happen. I try to keep my Friday nights for higher level activities than Stratosphere Lounge. Please don't take that personally. So what happens is you start as getting to the difference between men and women, the war on men and women. I see single moms struggling with this, and it's virtually impossible for them to do it, because the reason that we believe in traditional marriage and fight for it as conservatives is because we know how it works. And the real reason it works is because the nurturer doesn't have to be the discipline the disciplinarian. Sorry, it took me a second. The nurturer doesn't have to be the disciplinarian. They can be separate people. It works so much better that way. But whenever I see single moms struggling with unruly kids, I realize that the reason it's not working is because she has to be the person who spanks them and sends them to the room, and then she has to be the same person that sneaks up the stairs and say, listen, your father was right. You know your father was right. Now, you understand he's right. Yes. Here's a couple of cookies. Now, don't tell your dad I told you this. We love you. You just don't get him mad like that because you know he's right, right? You can't play good cop and bad cop and be the same cop. And when I see kids acting up like this, I'm not inclined to want to reason with them or to nurture them or find out what's wrong with them. I have a overwhelming desire to get that two voice in, and I feel no sympathy or compunction for that kid whatsoever. I think Bill Cosby actually, it was brilliant, man. I think Bill Cosby really summed it up when he said, listen, talking to his kids right who were acting up, said, listen, I brought you into this world and I could take you right out of it. I could make another one look just like you. That's kind of where I go with this thing.